Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on the life divine with our beloved Ranga and his new computer. We are on page 295, that is at least my page, Supermind, Mind, and the Overmind Maya, beginning with the sentence, since the consciousness force of the eternal existence is the universal creatrix.
So, before we read the para, I'll read out to you the summary of the previous para, so you get the continuity. The powers of the Supreme Reality are infinite. If we are to consider each power as a Godhead, the Overmind lets loose infinite Godheads, personalized aspects of all impersonal forces. The Godheads are personalized aspects of all impersonal forces. Each Godhead is equipped with the innate capacity to realize its full potential, either in conjunction with others or with their opposition or individually. They can act in cooperation with others, or they can work in contradiction with others, or individually also. All this is possible. That's why you have all the possibilities in the physical world. Okay?
Are they sometimes negative?
Yes. No, negative is our way of looking at things.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that's our way of looking at things. Just to give a very simple example, for instance, there is a concept of democracy, there is a concept of monarchy. So sometimes they may clash. So they are working against each other. And sometimes in England, you have synthesized both. You have a constitutional monarchy and a democracy. So they are working together. So these are the possibilities. Okay? Or there can be only monarchs as in the Arab countries, and there can be only democracy as in the US and India.
But these Godheads, if they don't take birth, they cannot evolve.
No, they are static.
They're static.
Their nature is static. They represent a particular aspect of existence and they stick to that. Normally, they are not interested in taking birth. Very rarely.
For human affairs. I don't know. I understand that sometimes they do help us.
If they are here, sometimes they want to, they do. But that's not a very common thing. Because they are absolutely static in their own field. Beginning from the physical vital, elves and gnomes and all that in the vital world, then the semi-divine creatures in the mental worlds, Gandharvas, Kinnaras, in Europe you call them angels of light. So all these beings are there. At the overmind level, these gods are there.
Now what about fairies?
Pardon?
Fairies.
I think they are not at the mental level. They are more at the...
Yes, they're more at the lower,
yeah,
but they care for the flowers and the plants.
Yes, that's right. So that's a life element. So they are more in the vital, maybe the higher vital. So that's what he's saying. Now, we go on to the Vedic description of the gods is very apt. Each god has a clear personal individuality and is worshipped as such. There can be Agni, there can be Mitra, there can be Varuna, and they are worshipped as such. Okay?
Now you are reading from your synopsis.
Yes, that's right. I am just summarizing what Srimad said. Okay? Each god has a clear personal individuality and is worshipped as such. Yet, he can be equally any of the others or all of them together. There is that flexibility. So Agni can become Mitra and he can work under Mitra, or he can work over Mitra, or he can work with Mitra. All these possibilities are there. That's what Srimad said. Then, he may act independently or with their cooperation or with their opposition. In fact, our Puranas and the mythological stories are full of gods which contradict each other. Okay? So, in the supermind, all these aspects are fully harmonized in an undivided unity. In the overmind, each god is a separate individuality and each has the power to fully realize its fully realize its potentialities. That is why we see in the world seeming oppositions, dualities, and conflicts. And this truth applies equally to existence, consciousness, force, and delight. The gods that represent the delight, the same law applies. The gods that represent force, the same laws apply. That's what he's saying. This overmind is the origin of the multiplicity of the cosmos. So this is described the overmind consciousness. Now we read the next para. Since the consciousness force of the eternal existence is the universal creatrix, the nature of a given world will depend upon whatever self-formulation of that consciousness expresses itself in that world. Equally, for each individual being, his seeing or representation to himself of the world he lives in will depend upon the poise or make which that consciousness has assumed in him. Our human mental consciousness sees the world in sections cut by the reason and sense and put together in a formation which is also sectional. It's not Unitarian, it is sectional. The house it builds is planned to accommodate one or another generalized formulation of truth, but excludes the rest and admits some only as guests or dependents in the house. Overmind consciousness is global in its cognition and can hold any number of seemingly fundamental differences together in a reconciling vision. Thus, the mental reason sees person and the impersonal as opposites. It conceives an impersonal existence in which person and personality are fictions of the ignorance or temporary constructions. Or, on the contrary, it can see person as a primary reality and the impersonal as a mental abstraction or only stuff or means of manifestation. To the overmind intelligence, these are separable powers of the one existence which can pursue their independent self-affirmation and can also unite together their different modes of action, creating both in their independence and in their union different states of consciousness and being, which can be all of them valid and all capable of coexistence. A purely impersonal existence and consciousness is true and possible, but also an entirely personal consciousness and existence. That also is possible. The impersonal divine Nirguna Brahman and the personal divine Saguna Brahman are here equal and coexistent aspects of the eternal. Impersonality can manifest with person, subordinated to it as a mode of expression. But equally, person can be the reality with impersonality as a mode of its nature. Both aspects of manifestation face each other in the infinite variety of conscious existence. What to the mental reason are irreconcilable differences present themselves to the overmind intelligence as coexistent correlatives. What to the mental reason are contraries are to the overmind intelligence complementaries. Our mind sees that all things are born from matter or material energy, exist by it, go back into it. It concludes that matter is the eternal factor, the primary and ultimate reality, Brahman. Or it sees all as born of life force or mind, existing by life or by mind, going back into the universal life or mind, and it concludes that this world is a creation of the cosmic life force or of a cosmic mind or logos. Or again, it sees the world and all things as born of, existing by, and going back to the real idea or knowledge will of the spirit or to the spirit itself. And it concludes on an idealistic or spiritual view of the universe. It can fix on any of these ways of seeing, but to its normal separative vision, each way excludes the others. Overmind consciousness perceives that each view is true of the action of the principle it erects. It can see that there is a material world formula, a vital world formula, a mental world formula, a spiritual world formula, and each can predominate in a world of its own, and at the same time, all can combine in one world as its constituent powers. The self-formulation of conscious force on which our world is based as an apparent inconscience that conceals in itself a supreme conscious existence and holds all the powers of being together in its inconscient secrecy, a world of universal matter, realizing in itself life, mind, overmind, supermind, spirit, each of them in its turn taking up the others as means of its self-expression, matter proving in the spiritual vision to have been always itself a manifestation of the spirit, is to the overmind view a normal and easily realizable creation. In its power of origination and in the process of its executive dynamism, overmind is an organizer of many potentialities of existence, each affirming its separate reality, but all capable of linking themselves together in many different but simultaneous ways. A magician craftsman empowered to weave the multicolored warp and woof of manifestation of a single entity in a complex universe. Very complicated language.
And a lot to look at.
Yeah. So,
What we do here is Ranga reads the entire paragraph, and then he goes sentence by sentence and explains everything to us.
and since it's such a long para, what we will do is we will again see in short what he's saying. So we have an overall picture. Then we go into the details. Okay. So again, I'm doing the same thing. I'm reading out to you the summary of what he has said. Okay. Then we will say. So what he's saying in the para is this. In short, we know that consciousness force is the creatrix of the universe. Sat, Chit, Shakti, Ananda. So Chit and Shakti together, consciousness and force are creating the universe. Creatrix, he's using the feminine aspect. Therefore, the nature of the world that it creates will be only a self-form or self-representation, a self-expression of that creatrix, consciousness force. Obviously, whatever is your nature, you will create something according to your own nature. So the Chit Shakti, whatever is nature, divine nature, it will create only what it can. But the only difference is our creation is limited. Whereas there, Chit Shakti being infinite, it can create infinite worlds. That's the difference. But it will always create according to its nature. That's what he's saying. Okay? So, then, therefore also, the individual's vision of the world he lives in will correspond to what the consciousness has built in that individual. In other words, if he is a materialist, he will see the physical world at the material level. If he is a vital person, he will see the physical world at the vital level, mental level, higher mind level. That's what he's saying. Whatever level he is at, his individuality will absorb that universal consciousness and see the world according to that. Okay? Our normal human mind sees the universe in sections, never the whole, because our reason and senses see only parts, sliced sections of the reality. Sometimes they use the word sectional. So, we don't see the whole. One example will make it very, very clear. Okay? Take light, infinite light. We see only the Vibgyor range. We don't see ultraviolet, we don't see infrared. So we are seeing only a section. That's what it means. So we cut up the entire infinite existence into sections and look at it that way. That's what it's saying at our level. Okay? Our normal human mind sees the universe in sections, never the whole, because our reason and senses see only parts, sliced sections of the reality. They see only one aspect and cut out the rest, or at best include other parts as temporary guests in their house. If you're very, very wide-minded, you can say, okay, I will admit this idea also. But that's not the main thing. The main thing is what I see. Okay, so they're using the word temporary guests in their house. Okay. On the contrary, the overmind can see the whole. Its vision is global. So that's a difference. We are seeing only sections, but the overmind sees the whole.
And yet it still sees duality.
Pardon?
It still sees duality.
Yes, but they are in perfect harmony. Whereas at our level, we see duality as oppositions.
Yes.
Virtue and sin are opposites. Light and darkness are opposites. But when you go to the overmind consciousness, yes, light and dark are there. Virtue and sin are there. But they are not different essentially. They are only two extreme poles of the same vibration. Okay? So, that's what he's saying. It reconciles all contraries and sees them in single view as complementary aspects of the reality. That's why even in philosophy, we have Advaita philosophy, Dvaita philosophy, all sorts of other philosophies. But at the overmind level, you see the truth of all. They are not contraries. Here we are fighting with each other, but there's no contradiction. Okay? Again, it's like the orchestra. The orchestra with 100 instruments all playing different things, totally different nature, totally different way of playing, but perfect harmony at the higher level. You see multiplicity, but it's total harmony at the overmind level, not at our level. So now he's giving examples. Our reason sees person and impersonal as contraries. If you can experience the divine as personal, or you see the impersonal. The wind is impersonal, it has no personality. Okay? You are a person, but you don't seem to have an impersonality. Your consciousness can become impersonal. That's a different matter. But your body will remain always very personal, limited with features. Okay? So, our reason sees person and impersonal as contraries. The overmind holds both in itself as complementaries. The overmind sees them as separables, but also capable of uniting. Each of these positions correspond to a spiritual experience. Each thing corresponds to a spiritual experience. One example also we can think of the sea and the waves. It's possible to experience the sea of consciousness as stable. Okay? But you can also see the waves forming. In the physical world, we see only the waves. We don't see the sea. I see your body, I see your body, I see your body are all separate. So I'm seeing only waves. But am I seeing the universal matter of which all this is made? No, I don't see it. So this is what he's saying. At level, whichever level you are, you see according to the consciousness that produces the instruments of knowledge. Okay, so each of these positions correspond to a spiritual experience. Very good example is the Ramakrishna first is experiencing only the personal aspect of the divine. And the Advaitin, the Totapuri who came to teach him, he is seeing only the impersonal aspect of the divine. So, that's an interesting story which we have, I think, discussed once. But that's a different thing. So, you can experience either this or this. There are many philosophies which say only the impersonal is true. There are others who say only the personal is true. Saguna, Nirguna.
But when one gets to the overmind, he sees
You can see both aspects, and they are not contraries, but they are separate. Yes, this also is there, that also is there. They are not contraries, but both exist. But if you go above that, it becomes only one. There is no difference in the supermind. The overmind sees them as separable, but also capable of uniting. Each of these positions correspond to a spiritual existence. Mind can consider that all creation, first possibility, comes from matter. That's a materialistic idea. Or it can consider that everything starts from the life force, which is the Bergson's élan vital. That's another theory. That the most important thing is the life. Matter is not. Life is more important. Then the third one is the Cartesian position. I think, therefore I am. The mind is the most important, not the others. So depending at which level you are, you formulate your philosophy. Okay? So, for the overmind, each view is valid within its own field. But the overmind can also see that each, even if separately, independent, can be present in all the others. So, that's an interesting thing. If you are in the overmind consciousness, you will see that each contains the other. The Advaita philosophy can be quite harmonious with the Dvaita philosophy or the other way around. They are all harmonious with each other. Can be present in all the others. Thus, matter contains as potentialities life and mind and supermind. Similarly, each contains the others. If you are at the overmind level, you will see that matter contains all these things. Life also contains all these things. The supermind also contains all these things, all producing, it contains. Just like the seed contains all the leaves and the fruits and the flowers and the bark. Exactly in the same way. This is what somebody is saying. Thus, matter contains as potentialities, life and mind and supermind. Similarly, each contains the others. Supermind too contains all the others in seed form. That's what he's saying in the para. Now, you have got the basic idea, okay, that depending, Chit Shakti is creating the world in degrees, in various planes of consciousness, and each one is varying a little bit. And according to which level you are stationing yourself, you will see the physical world from that point of view. There is a great resemblance to Einstein's relativity theory also, because Einstein's relativity theory says your view will depend upon the frame in which you are looking at things, the framework, the coordinates. If you change your coordinates, you will see something else. That's what Swami is also saying in a different way. In fact, Puranaji was very fond of philosophies and all that, and he used to read. So one day he was discussing relativity theory, and Srimad asked him, what is the relativity theory? So he told him very briefly that everything is relative in the physical world. The way you see things is relative. If you are here, you see it different. If you are there, you see it differently. Then Srimad said, oh, that's all. That is so obvious in the spiritual field. It's the same. Because one example will make this clear, which we have discussed earlier, but again I'm telling you. The way you see the physical world depends on your framework. Suppose I'm sitting in the train. There is an example we have discussed many times. I'm sitting and the train is moving at 30 miles an hour. I throw the ball up. The ball goes up and down. For me, the movement of the ball is vertical. Someone standing on the platform will not see it as vertical. He is not in the train. He'll see it like this. How can the same thing be seen in two different ways? That's the whole theory. Depending at which level of consciousness you are. That's what he's saying in this long chapter. In the physical world, you will see differences. As you keep going higher and higher, the differences start merging one into the other. At the overmind level, they merge quite well and they are consistent with each other. So therefore, Sri Aurobindo can say, Dvaita is true, Advaita is true, Tantric is true, All religions have their own value and they are true partially. They are not contradictory.
You said that differences are there at the physical level, and then at the supermind level, it starts to get harmonized.
At the overmind level,
Overmind level also.
the multiplicity is still there.
Right.
You see the many.
But it's harmonized.
They are harmonious with each other.
But can that harmony, or how does one see that harmony even at the physical level?
No.
Not possible.
That's why there is so much of quarrel and so much of
But
difference.
then one person, like if one person is living at that level of consciousness and is seeing it from that poise of harmony, does that change anything at the physical level?
Not in the physical world. It doesn't change. Changes for the individual.
Changes for them.
For the individual. But what you are asking is interesting. I may force a harmony between. I may have a difference of opinion with Narad, okay? But I agree to disagree. That is not the harmony that Srimad is speaking about.
That is,
They are completely consistent with each other.
Now, in the integral yoga, Mother says that if groups gather together in harmony and pray or meditate, it can change the world.
Yes.
How?
Because its power increases twofold, threefold, tenfold. If it's all in harmony. If it's not in harmony, it won't. It's very simple, na? You are conducting these Om choirs. Suppose only 2 people are singing. What will be the volume? If there are 10 people singing the same thing, 10 times more powerful. On that principle it works. But it must be in harmony.
Yes.
If it's not in harmony, it won't change. That's what he said in this para. Again, if you want in summary of summaries, Chit Shakti is creating the world in degrees. Okay? In various degrees. And as it keeps coming down, the one starts becoming the many, and there is a nature of each plane of consciousness, and that depending at which level you are, you will see the physical world according to the nature of that world. There is multiplicity in the physical world, and therefore you will see everything as multiple. As you keep going higher and higher, you will start seeing in a different way. If I am sitting on the sea beach, I am seeing each wave. For me, each wave is separate. Okay? They are all very clearly separate. I am seeing multiplicity. But as I go up, I will see them as part of the sea, not the individual form. The whole view changes. Another example which is not very, very relevant to this one is, usually also we can give that, okay? When I am in my room, what am I seeing? I am seeing only the room and I am seeing multiplicity here. I don't see the next room, I don't see Pondicherry, I don't see even Tamil Nadu, I don't. Suppose I sit in a rocket and go up. Slowly, I'll see the whole town. I go a little higher up, I'll start seeing the whole state. I see go up, I go to the International Space Station, I'll see the whole earth. So it is just like that. You will start seeing things totally different way. Okay, that's basically what he's
At
saying.
the level of the higher mind, what can one see?
At the level of the higher mind, normally you see a division between Chit and Shakti. Your consciousness has gone into an absolute, calm, quiet, immutable, featureless infinity and eternity. You realize that you are immortal. But you see the physical world is separate from you. But when you go higher up, you see that which you saw as separate is not so separate as you thought it at first. He uses the word specious, if you remember.
Species, yes, yes.
It looks very convincing at the beginning that spirit and matter are different. You go to a certain level, the view changes. They are quite harmonious with each other. And you go to the highest level, there is no question of harmony. They are the same thing. Spirit and matter are the same thing. Like ice, water and water vapor. Essentially the same, taking different forms. In this simultaneous development. Okay? In this simultaneous development of multitudinous independent or combined powers or potentials, there is yet, or there is as yet, interesting, no chaos, no conflict, no fall from truth or knowledge. The overmind is a creator of truths, not of illusions or falsehoods. What is worked out in any given overmental energism or movement is the truth of the aspect, power, idea, force, delight, which is liberated into independent action. The truth of the consequence of its reality in that independence. There is no exclusiveness asserting each as the sole truth of being or the others as inferior truths. Each god knows all the gods and their place in existence. Each idea admits all other ideas and their right to be. Each force concedes a place to all other forces and their truth and consequences. He is describing the overmind consciousness. No delight of separate fulfilled existence or separate existence denies or condemns the delight of other existence or other experience. The overmind is a principle of cosmic truth, and a vast and endless Catholicity is its very spirit. Its energy is an all dynamism as well as a principle of separate dynamisms. It's a sort of inferior supermind, although it is concerned predominantly not with absolutes, but with what might be called dynamic potentials or pragmatic truths of reality, or with absolutes mainly for their power of generating pragmatic or creative values. Although, too, its comprehension of things is more global than integral. More global than integral. Since its totality is built up of global wholes or constituted by separate independent realities, uniting and coalescing together, and although the essential unity is grasped by it and felt to be basic of things and pervasive in their manifestation, but no longer as in the supermind, in their intimate and ever-present secret, their dominating continent, the overt constant builder of the harmonic whole of their activity and nature. So now he is talking of the difference between supermind and the overmind. Okay, so we'll again do the same thing. We'll summarize the thing and then look. This we can go into detail because there are very interesting details. He has used the word as yet or as yet. What does he mean by that?
Yet or as yet.
Yeah. So I'm reading out the summary. In the overmind, remember one thing, the supermind is above the overmind. Okay? And that's the highest plane of manifestation. Beyond the overmind, there is no manifestation. You have to go into non-manifestation. So, in the overmind, which is a field of infinite, multitudinous, independent forces, potentialities, but there is no chaos in spite of the multiplicity. You see the many, but there is no chaos. They are quite consistent with each other, although there are differences. Okay? Very clear. The overmind creates truths, not illusions or falsehoods. So, which is creating falsehoods? The higher mind. The higher mind creates a falsehood, but not the overmind. When you go to the overmind, you see that the physical forms are temporary realities, and behind the temporary realities is the permanent reality.
What about the intuitive mind?
The intuitive mind also is even higher than that. You start seeing the reality. As we have discussed earlier, higher mind, element mind, intuitive mind and overmind, on all these planes, you can have glimpses of the truths of higher planes. You can have glimpses, but not the full, not settled consciousness. You can have an experience. That is there. Okay, so the overmind creates truths, not illusions or falsehoods. So who is creating the illusion or falsehood? Higher mind. As soon as you make your mind silent and go to the higher mind, you see the physical world as unreal. That is the nature of that plane of consciousness. That's what he has told you earlier. Okay? The overmind creates truths, not illusions or falsehoods. Each energism is released into manifestation, having full power to express its unique character. Now, Swamita is using a very interesting word, energism. Why is he not saying energy? Because energy is the vast, infinite source of power. But that power can take different forms. Okay? You can have electrical power, you can have thermal power, you can have muscular power, you can have solar power. So these are all different aspects of energy. They are energisms. He uses the word in that way. Okay? So each energism is released into the manifestation, having full power to express its unique character. There is no division, but only demarcation. Okay? There is no division, but there is demarcation. We'll come back to it. It's like you take a picture and you intend to make a jigsaw puzzle out of it. Okay? You see the whole. That's in supermind. At the overmind level, 1 degree below, you want to make the jigsaw puzzle and you draw the lines where you want to cut the picture. So, there is no division as yet, but there is a demarcation. That means you see the different parts and yet they are all forming a one single piece. Okay? But as you come down even from the overmind level to the next level, it's like having separated each piece 1 centimeter. Okay? So if you stand back sufficiently, you will see the whole picture, but in a broken way. Come down even more, the pieces have separated each one, and you don't see the whole picture at all. That's an interesting way of expressing this. No division, but demarcation. Okay? There is no division, but only demarcation. Its character is a wide inclusivity. What's he talking about? Overmind. A large Catholicity. Each force recognizes the legitimacy of all the others without opposing them. And this is true of existence, consciousness, force and delight. So, delight can be of many types. In fact, consciousness can be of many types. Force also can be. We discussed force, different types of force. Different types of consciousness. There can be a plant consciousness, there can be an animal consciousness, there can be a human consciousness, there can be a yogic consciousness, and there can be an avataric consciousness. So consciousness also can be different. But at the highest level, they are not in opposition. They are perfectly valid with each other. Okay, so then same thing with delight also. In fact, don't think that delight is only one type. Okay? He has given a list of many, many types of delights. Haituka Ananda, Ahaituka Ananda, with cause and without cause. Okay? Then Raudrananda, deep, very violent, intense Ananda. Then Vaidyuta Ananda, electrical. Nature of it is electrical Ananda. Okay? So yes, there is so many different types of Ananda. Kamananda, Sharirananda, all these different types of anandas. So, again we come back to the idea of energism and energy. And that applies to all. That's what he's saying. It applies to existence, consciousness, force and delight. What about existence? Same thing. Existence is one, but when it comes down to the physical world, you have all the elements. Gold, silver, platinum, okay? Carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide. In fact, they are not, but they are different types of elements. When we were at school, we knew only 90 elements. Now there are, I think, 190 they have discovered. Okay, so uranium, plutonium, thorium, whatnot. They are all the different aspects of existence. So, then each force admits the other force as rightful, Each consciousness does not deny the other beings of consciousness. Each form of delight fraternizes with the other forms of delight. That's my word. That is why the overmind is more global than integral. Now that's interesting. More global than integral. When you are in the International Space Station, your view of the earth is global. But you are not seeing the different houses, you are not seeing the streets, you are not seeing the different towns. But if you see both together, it will be integral. That's what he's saying. Okay? Then, that is why the overmind is more global than integral. Integrality includes the one and the many. That is there in the supermind. Globality, collection of wholes without insistence on separate parts, belongs to the overmind, which is one notch below the supermind. Clear? The one and the many are all perfectly harmony in the, you see them as essentially one in the supermind. In the overmind, you see the differences, but they are not clashing. Come one step more down, they begin to clash. At our level, total clash. Christian ideas are one, Islamic ideas are other. The other religions also have different ideas. Okay. Same thing in politics also. Democracy, monarchy, oligarchy, aristocracy, plutocracy, what not. All different forms of government. But they are all valid in their own way at the overmind level. You come down here, they seem to be contradictory to each other. Okay, so he has explained integrality and globality. Okay. Then, I think that's the end of that's what he's saying. So we have read, I have told you in gist what he's saying in the para. Just in the beginning, okay, he's saying, in the simultaneous development of multitudinous, independent or combined powers. It is not that serially, first there is the overmind, then there is the higher mind, then there is the lower mind. It's not like that. They are all existing together at the same time. Simultaneous development or combined powers as potential. There is yet, or there is as yet, no chaos, no conflict, no fall from the truth of knowledge. When you are in the overmind consciousness, there is no clash, no conflict. But as yet, when you come down, the conflict starts. When you go down, at our level, the conflict is well established. That's why we have all this total chaos